A lot of people are rooting for Isaiah Thomas to make a big, giant, emotional comeback for good reason. And yeah, losing out on like $100 million is a big deal, but the way it happened was cold from the Celtics, but it could have been avoided.
The only thing that I think they handled wrong was not explaining to me what the extent of my injury could be if I do play. So that was the biggest thing for me that I dislike, because nobody gave me no insight. Okay, if you do play, this can happen.
We have to hear that.
If Isaiah would have shut it down early, maybe his career doesn't fall off a cliff. But are we finally gonna see a proper end to IT's career? Look, I'll be honest here. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I did not think he should get another shot. He's had plenty of chances to show that he can play after Boston. The Cavaliers traded for him. He was bad. The Lakers signed him. He sucked. The Nuggets made him a starter. The Wizards signed him too. Look, outside of like lighting it up at his local 30 and up YMCA game, these second chances are all fails. So yes, I was tired of hearing people say all he needs is another chance. He had 4 other chances. But right now, everybody is going to get another chance because of COVID. And I mean everybody. Over 70 players have entered protocols, and they just need healthy bodies at this point. Combine that with a 42-point G League game, and of course IT was gonna get another shot. But will all these people be right that all he needed was another shot? I mean, maybe, because he's been doubted his entire life, and he's pretty much proved everyone wrong. Even though he balled out in college, he was the 60th pick in the 2011 draft, and IT showed right away he can win games at 5'9". Despite drafting Jimmer Fredette at 10th overall, the Kings were starting the 60th pick over him. In 3 years for Sacramento, IT jumped his scoring at about 11 points a game to 20. He had big-time moments against Kevin Durant's Thunder, Stephen Curry's Warriors, even breaking Steph's ankles, though not literally because, he had a history of that back then, so probably not a thing to joke about. And honestly, I think the main reason that Sacramento even traded him to Phoenix was they were like, there's no way this short-ass dude could ever lead us to actual success. And at the time, the Suns actually thought that too. I mean, they already had Eric Bledsoe and Goran Dragic plus IT. Dare I say too many point guards. And they didn't have faith in Isaiah. They never even really gave him the keys. Eventually, they traded him to Boston, where everything finally changed. We all know that IT eventually became a 2-time All-Star, led the C's to a 1 seed and a conference finals, but that wasn't even the plan. The Celtics didn't even believe in Isaiah at first. They got him to come off the bench. 4 days after the deal, IT hit a dagger 3 and stared down the Suns bench who had just traded him. That was an early sign that he was built for the big moment. The next season, Marcus Wicked Smart and Avery Bradley both got injured, so IT started and never looked back. Yeah, he led Boston to a playoff spot, but he took another jump at his age 26 season. IT not only became an all-star, averaging 22 points and 6 assists, but he was the most clutch player in the regular season. In the playoffs, the Hawks beat Boston in 6 games, but IT had 42 points in a playoff game, and the Celtics had transformed from a rebuild to a scrappy team because of Scrappy Doo himself.
Let me at him! Let me at him!
A 5'9", 60th pick had changed one of the NBA's most historic franchises. They were confident enough, after all that, to actually invest in better teammates, so they brought in Al Horford. Somehow, IT then took another jump. He dropped almost 30 points a game in 2017 and had more clutch scoring than anyone else in the fourth quarter. The C's surrounded him with defense, and they got the #1 seed. That rise to the top made what happened next even more heartbreaking. IT's sister, China, died in a car accident at 22 years old the day before the playoffs started. No one would have blamed IT if he didn't play. His sister dying so young is one of the worst things that a person can go through. But he still decided to suit up despite all the pain that was so obvious in his face. And he dropped 33 points in a Game 1 loss before leading Boston to a series win. On top of that tragedy though, his career was about to crash. No one knew how bad IT's hip issue was at the time when he battled through a grueling 7-game series with Washington. IT even dropped a 53-piece in Game 2. They lost to Cleveland in 5 games in that conference finals, but Isaiah was never the same after that. Boston traded him for Kyrie Irving that offseason, and dude just couldn't play. His defense has always been bad, but now his offense sucked. The second chances started to come, and he went from 30 points a game to 15 to 12 to 8. His potential earnings went from potentially $100 million to $6 million to $2 million to his $135,000 10-day deal with the Lakers. Now, no one is crying for a dude making 6 figures in 10 days, but it is a sad story overall. I know everyone felt bad for him when he was sobbing in the hallway after dropping 81 points in a Pro-Am league. But the good news, if you are rooting for IT this time, is something LeBron James said after IT's debut.
I'm happy to see him back in the league. The difference between when we were teammates in Cleveland and now is that he's healthy now. He wasn't healthy in Cleveland, and he was, playing out of, just pure grit, and his hip was just not allowing him to be who he was before the injury. So, obviously he has his pop back, he has a shot back, and it's good to have him.
Okay, first of all, that is shocking just to hear come out of LeBron's mouth, because clearly he hated Isaiah in Cleveland. LeBron was obviously pissed that they traded Kyrie Irving. He wouldn't even high-five Isaiah after good plays. And so, yeah, this is good news that LeBron is backing this guy and saying he's healthy. So will Isaiah actually go back to being a great contributing player? Well, in just a few games with the Lakers, he's averaging about 16 points in under 30 minutes. And at 32 years old, he has brought the average age of this Lakers roster down quite a bit. But anything can happen in a few games. So what does he actually look like? Never mind the stats. So his biggest issues after his injury really was just movement. Like, he didn't have the lift on his jump shot that he did before, and he lost a step, which really took away what he did best. That led to a lot of missed buckets when he was in New Orleans. Dude was basically a black hole for 3 games, so they cut him. Now though, on the Lakers, he is making those shots. They're the same shots that he got before, but now he can move. He has got that step back. He's also playing off the ball more. A lot of his points have been assisted on the Lakers this time. His passing is on point, and that was actually an underrated aspect of his 42-point G League performance. I mean, people talked all about the scoring, of course, but some of the dimes he threw were magic. IT is not obviously all the way back because his MVP type season was 4 years ago. He was 27 years old. Now, again, he's 32. And even though he looks good, honestly, I wish he would have got picked up by a different team. I mean, the reason he was successful in Boston was they surrounded him with defensive talent. Small guards can pop when they're surrounded with defense like Trae Young or Darius Garland, but the Lakers roster is not that. I think the best outcome here for IT in this comeback is that he can show in LA that he can still play, then he gets one actual last shot on a team that suits him. Now, I do want to be clear, IT's career was not tragic. What happened to his sister was tragic. But I do still think after watching him play, he does deserve another shot in the league, and it looks like he could actually be successful this time. I still don't think the Lakers are contenders, though, I gotta be honest. A lot of people, though, think the Utah Jazz are contenders. It all comes down to Rudy Gobert's ceiling, and a lot of people have not noticed one thing about him this year.